and that is communications. Communications is a large umbrella with several things under it, and I'm going to start first by talking about 911. 911 is a public safety answering point, and that is where when you call and the emergency 911, somebody answers that phone. We have 3 PSAPs in Wayne County, the Justice Center, Oroville, and Rittman. And I am very pleased to let you know that all 3 PSAPs are in the process of upgrading their 911 equipment. This has been something that's been thoughtfully done, and we are spending that money right now, and as of May 1st, we will have new 911 equipment in our PSAPs. Now, this equipment also is being done with Ashland and Medina County. And once the inter-county connectivity is done, we will be able to have better transfer capabilities and what's called redundancy. Right now in the system we have, and what's worked for 40 years, is these are all been PSAPs. Suppose a tornado hits the Justice Center. At that point, calls roll to Oroville, they roll to Rittman. For some reason, something happens in Oroville. Calls roll to Rittman, they call to Justice, and then to the Justice Center. So your calls are always answered at the PSAP. And having the redundancy with Ashland and Medina County is going to be a great benefit for all of Wayne County citizens. So when you're talking about communications, the first leg of the stool is 911 or your PSAP. The second leg is dispatching. Dispatching is after they take the 911 call. Then what they do is they contact the first responder and send the first responder out to the emergency, and they are also on the radio with the first responder throughout that time. In Wayne County, those functions have always been married together. We've always had the 911 answering and the dispatching as one call taker would do that. So in our Wayne County Justice Center and Oroville and Rittman, the 911 call comes in, and then it is dispatched out to the first responder, and they respond. Now, as the city of Wooster is moving away and taking the leg of the dispatch center and taking that over to the hospital, what will happen in Wooster, the 911 call will come in, it'll go to the Justice Center, and then they'll determine it's a citizen in Wooster. They'll push a button, send it over to the WARCOG, and then the WARCOG will dispatch that out to their police or their fire. And the gold standard for emergency communications is to have those 2 functions together. So as commissioners, we do have a concern within the city of Wooster that is not going to be what you've been used to. And safety is something we are all concerned about, every one of us in this room. And we want the best for our citizens. But I do want to point out that that's going to be a change. It's an extra step that's going to be added in on the citizens of Wooster calls. In our dispatch, there's been a lot of talk, all in the paper. Our equipment has constantly been improved. The oldest equipment we have is the 911 equipment, which by May will have brand new equipment. But our councils, they've been updated, and our equipment and our dispatchers, they've received nationally recognized training. I want to say that our dispatchers that we have there are a dedicated group of professionals, and they provide the best service to our citizens and our first responders. Their training is extensive, and I am very proud of our dispatching staff and the people that are there. So dispatching is one leg of the stool, and then like I talked about, the PSAP. So those are two separate parts of it. There are many parts of the state where they are not married together like we've had them in the past, but this is going to be a change for the citizens of Wooster. There's been a lot of talk about, dispatch and costs, so I just put up the 2014 actual dispatch costs. The dispatch at the Justice Center is a shared function by the City of Wooster and by the county. And that's because of a long ago contract that was made between the county and the city of Worcester. And actual dispatch costs last year, in that agreement, that contract is long going for 40 years. The county is the fiscal officer of that, and so we pay the costs up front, we bill the city. The city's share for actual dispatch was $415,600. Now they jointly own the building. The county does not own the Justice Center building, it's joint owned. And back when it was built in the 70s, there was a lot of grant money that came in, and then the city put in money and the county put in money to own that building. The city share is 23.5%. I know that sounds odd, but it's based on square footage. The county owns more of the building because we have the jail. The jail is a responsibility of the county commissioners, takes up more square footage, and so we own more of the building. But as we go together to work on that building, we share the cost based on the square footage, and their share was $77,370. Now we also have some shared personnel in the building, and that shared personnel mainly is records, some of it is administration, but that cost last year was $56,670 that we billed the city for their share in the building. And at this time, the city actually has notified the county that they want to exercise their option to be out of the Justice Center agreement we've had for a long time. So what they're doing is asking us to buy their share of the building according to the contract. So there's negotiations going on now that we would purchase that building, the rest, their share of the building from them. Okay. In that building, I guess, just so you know, is the police department is housed there, the sheriff's department is housed there, the jail is there, emergency management is there, all within that Justice Center building, and of course the shared dispatch is there. And our records right now are together, meaning if you go in right now, you can get the sheriff and police records right there at the front desk. It's a shared function, which is part of that shared personnel. Oh, there's been a lot of talk about this study also. So I just wanted to point out that a direct quote from the Consolidated Dispatch Center feasibility study, page 39, was the assumption was that it would be more economical to use the existing infrastructure and staffing at the onset of the operation. I want to talk a little bit about the third leg of the stool as far as communications. Communications, we talked about dispatch, we talked about PSAPs, and now we're going to talk about the actual radio communications. The county commissioners want to make sure we have the infrastructure available, that we have good radio communications. And thanks to Frank LaRose and Ron Obstutz, we have a grant that we're going to be using on radio communications. The first thing we did was we contracted with mission critical partners to evaluate our current radio communication infrastructure. Right now they're talking to every single fire chief, every single police chief, whether it's Mount Eden, it's West Salem, it's Orville, all across the county, to find out what we need to do with our communications infrastructure for radio communications. We suspect and believe that most of that grant is going to be used to improve a tower that's going to be near the Kinney Field. It's a 1971 tower. It holds a lot of the communication equipment for all of Wayne County and dispatching. And so the benefit of the radio communication improvement project we're working on will benefit all of Wayne County. The important thing to understand is right now we have interoperability for our radios, meaning our sheriff can talk to West Salem, they can talk to Creston, they can talk to Worcester, they can all talk to each other. Interoperability for our first responders and the ability to communicate across all radio types is imperative for our safety. And we want to make sure that even though as radio types change, as dispatches change, we still have that interoperability, which is going to be necessary for all of Wayne County. I think the Wayne County Commissioners have in place the personnel that we need for this communications. We have Lynn Feller, who is our 911 coordinator. She actually sits on the governor's task force for 911. We have Ron McCollum, who is actually our dispatching supervisor. He can actually train in the nationally recognized training for dispatchers. We have Joe Villegas, who's heading up our radio communication, our tower system that we have. And so we are ready to go as far as communications.